We have an incredibly beautiful week, one of the most beautiful weeks I've seen in a while. A very powerful eclipse to start the week and a equally life-changing commitment, perhaps, that is made by the end of the week. Sunday, March 8th, each of us will have renewed a commitment to ourselves, a quiet measure of accountability to our own truth, and a willingness to build our world around that truth instead of someone else's. As we move towards that moment on Sunday, we pass through a few key themes or initiations, if you will. Firstly, we are clarifying our relationship to God early this week, and that is through ritual. We balance those ritual realizations socially and relationally. And then we'll find ourselves deepening and finally ready to commit to a vision that is really only accessible through a radical acceptance of where we are right now. So the week really begins with a reset, a refocusing of the divine within each of us. Faith detoxified, if you will, and the habits and devotions we may have abandoned years ago, now we have reclaimed them. This shift comes through communication. At the end of the day, it's all about communication. And communication is nothing other than ordering information in linear time. So how are we making sense of the infinite? How do we speak about what feels irrational, mystical, sacred? And as we speak it, as we're making sense of it and communicating it, the world is really going to be reflecting it this week. The more we speak life into this clarity, the more intimate our experience with the world then becomes. By the end of the week, beauty and balance are more and more available because we've done the work at the beginning of the week. Over the weekend, something really opens and we become available to this immediate manifestation of the vision we've been holding. And within the moments of that vision becoming clear, we commit. This is all held in emotional depth, in wisdom, and in creative possibility, seemingly limitless. So let's walk through how this unfolds astrologically. So Monday, Mars moves into Pisces and the moon is in Virgo. At this time, the moon in Virgo will cross the south node. So we are seeing what's left over from the past in our practical work, which shines through our habits, our routines, our systems. But the bigger shift on Monday is really Mars entering Pisces. Mars is action. Every step you take, it is the force that collapses infinite possibility into one choice. In Aquarius, Mars was very mental, strategic, and very social. In Aquarius, we were rewiring circuits through our actions and making calculated moves. Now in Pisces, we surrender. The action with Mars in Pisces is emotional. It is spiritual and creative. It can feel less defined, but more sensitive somehow. And here's the key. Mars in Pisces is now ruled by Neptune in Aries. which means our actions are motivated or driven by the truth that we feel in the present. Neptune in Aries, in the present moment. And because Saturn is so close to Neptune still right now, that truth carries responsibility. So there's a crystallization happening. It's a recognition of who we are, not aspirationally, but actually. And this disrupts older systems. For decades, we've climbed cultural ladders built on conformity and truly sacrifice. But now we're watching something else entirely emerge. People succeeding because they chose themselves, because they returned to their own enjoyment, and because they authored their own path. You no longer, never should have, but no longer need to listen and take action on every thought that passes through your head. I think the only thoughts you have to pay attention to are the ones that you are consciously thinking yourselves. You have no obligation to the autopilot anymore. Okay? Mars in Pisces makes this visible. Actions become more simple. We are acting with Mars in Pisces now because it feels true. Not because it's securing some semblance of distant stability. It's all collapsing into the present moment now. By Tuesday morning, we have the lunar eclipse in Virgo. This eclipse is devotional, okay? Mercury, the ruler of the sign of Virgo, is currently retrograde in the sign of Pisces. It is widely conjunct the sun and the planet Venus. Okay, so this isn't just about a simple full moon of routines or work. There is significant emphasis on our faith, which is Pisces. So wherever 12 degrees of Virgo is falling in your chart, let's understand that is the area that's coming into fullness. Okay, the Virgo house of your chart is reflecting something much bigger happening, but the thing happening is in Pisces. So, Pisces in this case is your relationship to God, to ultimate meaning, to unknowable meaning, to surrender. And as you refine how you communicate about your faith, your outer life reorganizes. And so the eclipse is not merely the fullness of the Virgo part of your chart. I am far more drawn at this lunar eclipse to the Pisces area of our charts because I think that's the generator. And the Virgo, the actions are truly just what follows when we find ourselves in clarity. By Wednesday, we have a ton of balance beginning to emerge, and this is coming from the moon entering the sign of Libra, the scales, okay? So now we're weaving our personal truth that we just got out of this eclipse into relationships and into balance. We're beginning to see the reflections of the internal structure that we are building, the external reflections of them. So on Wednesday, the moon also forms an opposition to Saturn and Neptune at the beginning degrees of Libra. And so instead of just tension, this can actually feel very clarifying. Because at the same time, the sun is forming a trine to Jupiter, which is incredibly expansive, forgiving, creative, generous. It is a profound context. This is a day where there's a lot of clarity in being able to speak, this is who I am, hear someone else say, this is who I am, and really hold that very, very gently. By Thursday, the moon continues to be in Libra and is in a bit more of a square to Jupiter, wide square, but this is a choice that we get to make. Not a ton of tension. I like a square between the moon and Jupiter, but we make a choice and we find greater balance, greater expansion. By Friday, this is where things start to really deepen as the moon enters Scorpio. And Venus leaves Pisces and enters Aries. So desire becomes direct. What we want and what we are open to right now with Venus is right here and right now. It's less about merging as it might have felt with in Pisces and more about choosing. So by Saturday, Moon is still in Scorpio, which is a deep signature in and of itself. And the moon is also now forming a grand water trine with the sun in Pisces and Jupiter in Cancer. So we have a full emotional flow, full coherence, and it starts off with Venus making a conjunction to Neptune. Okay, all in Aries. This is where you are becoming subjectively aware of your personal vision. It's not abstract anymore. Okay, this is clear, personal. And if we go back to the Mars topic, anything in Aries is still ruled by Mars in Pisces. So this vision is about taking creative, spiritual action that is deeply felt. And by the time we go into Sunday is really when this commitment is made, is deepened. Moon is still in Scorpio at this time, and Venus crosses Saturn in Aries. That is the signature of Venus, something subjective, something personal that we are open to meeting, starting a new cycle with Saturn, which is the planet of reality itself. Still, the moon is in a great trine with the sun and Jupiter, and that really creates this really incredible context, an incredible optimism, an incredible emotional wisdom, which again creates the context for this commitment that we are making to ourselves, this commitment that we are making to our present moment, from which we are acting to make a choice over and over and over again. Okay? So this is not an imposition, and this is certainly not something we can demand from ourselves or someone else. But just like I'm saying with the thoughts that we listen to in our brain, these are the ones that we are choosing to create. This commitment is a choice to the personal vision that has been growing and growing and clarifying over these last few weeks. And not just to the vision, but to our responsibility in making it real. And this is all so harmonious and fortunate because when emotional depth and creative inspiration and structural clarity all come into alignment, the decision to do this, it feels obvious. And it also feels like it is yours. So I hope you are feeling as expanded and empowered as I am. Please let me know how it's going for you. I do personal readings. I should have some more availability. You can check out at the link below. Until the next one, goodbye for now.